Hello and welcome to another lighting diagram lesson. My name is Trenton Hoshiko, and today we're talking about Self-Portrait by Samuel Joseph Brown Jr. So this painting is a self-portrait, and the way I am looking at this is it looks to me like a large mirror. Now, this self-portrait might be a portrait of him on the canvas that then has him painting and looking at the canvas, one of those kinds of self-portraits. It very easily could be that. But I'm going to take it as if this is a mirror image of him glancing at himself in the mirror and having that be what's captured on the canvas that was painted. I specifically like the cool tones here, and it's definitely something you could play around with in terms of your color grade and pushing your white balance a bit. Before I get started, if you want to get my free Filmmaker Tools template for Draw.io, which is a free and open source diagramming software, it comes with all of these tools that are up here, already all laid out so that you can just start diagramming and start communicating clearly with the people that you're working with. This is available on my Patreon, completely free. The link is down in the video description. While you're on my Patreon, if you do want to join, I have free and paid tiers that start at just $2. The paid tiers do help support these videos as well as my regular cinematography videos. Thank you so much to everybody who's already directly supporting. I really appreciate it. So let's talk about the painting itself here. One thing that I mentioned already is that I'm taking this as if it's a mirror. This could be a canvas on an easel, but I'm going to take it as a mirror because I think that's more interesting in terms of recreating this for a cinematography shot. I did mention the color grade a little bit. Everything here is these blue and greenish teal tones. On the outside, on the inside, we do have his tie and the front of his shirt, but everything else in here is much more of a warm tone. So I think that that's something really interesting that you could work on in the color grade. But do note that it's not just messing with white balance because these whites are still relatively white. The tone of everything else is what's being changed. And I think that that definitely makes this look a little bit more natural and stylized without being oppressively blue. But the difference between the external world and the internal world having a blue versus a tannish tone is something that is really interesting to me. In terms of what we're actually looking at here, the side of his face, which is his left side, it's not camera left or camera right really because it's facing us, is illuminated. And this is then presumably the same side as this part of his face right here on his, mirror reflection. And then this right here, the shadowed side, is what we can't see on the other side of his face. So we need to be able to light all of this side of his face and most of the actual front of his face and have that light stop as it rounds the edge of his cheekbone and gets back to his ear being completely blacked out. So our goal is to have our light coming camera left to camera right, wrapping around his face, but not reaching all the way around. Now, the black nature of this material right here is probably helping bring that shadow down just a little bit, not having as much bounce back. And we do note that back here, we actually have a nice shadow as well, but I would say that it's not as deep of a shadow as this in particular. And that's just where that light is going onto his face and not reaching all the way back here at the very back of his head, which just makes sense. So we need to have a placement of our light that helps us replicate this, basically full wrap on this side and no wrap on this side. And that's helped by his face being at an angle, which you can kind of tell because of how it is reflected in the mirror. We can tell, kind of looking at the catch light here, that there appears to be a single relatively large source. His eyes are facing in towards the mirror, and this would be his right eye, the far eye. And on the right eye, on the left side of it, towards the nose, is the catch light. So that does support the idea that the light is coming from the side of his face that is facing the camera. We have a really even exposure even on the top of his head. Basically, the only place that we're not getting it is the back of his head right here and then that far side. And if you look at the catch light once again, it's a little bit above the horizon line. for where his eyes would be at if, he was looking straight out. So I think that we can have our light be slightly above him, casting slightly down, which is also how then you would get the shadow underneath his chin, right about here. So the light would be casting down, and also making sure that we don't have the top of his head be a different exposure than the rest of it. So basically we're kind of having a line like this being drawn through his head, making sure it hit the top of his head and his face are what's being illuminated. Let's recreate this. This is a much tighter shot than what we usually are talking about with these paintings. So I'm gonna say that this is probably closer to like an 85 millimeter or so, which is kind of exciting for me. And I'm gonna start by using the floor plan tools. We're just gonna create a little space here. It's nothing extra special really, because this could be done pretty much anywhere. If you're in your dorm room, if you're in your apartment, if you're on a studio, a shot like this is kind of abstracted from the rest of the space, and I think that's purposeful in terms of his artistic interpretation here. So with this in place, I would say that we can just take something and say, hey, this is the mirror, and we'll say that this is our man. He's standing in front of the mirror, and this will probably be confusing, is our reflection. Gonna bring him to the front, and I did choose just the medium here just to kind of differentiate between the two, but I just wanted the idea of that to be there. For our camera, we're going to be basically in line with our actor, and I probably should actually rotate him slightly here just to clue us in that he's sort of at an angle to this wall in the mirror, like he's turned his head slightly towards it. I don't believe in terms of how the frame works that this wall is flat to the camera, but I do believe that our actor is flat to the camera. So it'd be something like this. And we'll be back a little bit further so that we can get some of that kind of compression where everything just feels on top of each other here. And now from here, you have a couple different options. You could do something like a Kino bank. You could do an LED panel, although that might be a little bit hard of light. I'm thinking that you need something that is light that is being softened slightly, but not too hard nor too soft, while at the same time being big enough to get a wrap around the face here. So I do think that you could use an octabox or a softbox. I would say maybe a 2-foot or 3-foot softbox would work, and octabox would be similar in that regard. I do think that the catch light's a little bit more square in nature, so maybe that's being motivated by a window off to the left side here. But I'm going to just for fun today use the softbox. And we'll have a lamp. This could be any basically Bowens mount lamp that you have, or softbox compatible for whatever kind of softbox mounting system you use. But Bowens is so popular, I'm going to call it a Bowens. This could be the GVM P80S or the GVM SD80D, both lights that I like. It could be an aperture light. There's really, lots of options here. So the idea with this is that the light is going to be being softened some by it being about a 2-foot softbox, but we're not going to have it be super, super soft, because I still want to get some of this shadow to not be fully filled in by the light being so expansively spreading around and bouncing around. I want to be able to get this hard line on his face. Now I think he has pretty distinct cheekbones and jawbone there, and that definitely helps with that. But we want to, give it the best shot possible. And so what we'd do is we'd have this 2-foot softbox. If this is then looking too soft, you could do a 1-foot softbox, and that will be spreading your light some, but not, taking it too far away from being a little bit harder because of the size relative to your subject. I think the 2-foot softbox to me is a pretty happy medium, and we will be raising this up so that it tilts it down at roughly a 45-degree angle, because you can see the line right through there. I don't often use just the line, but I think it could be important this time. So that line kind of bisects his head in this way. So that tells me that it kind of is a little bit top down, and that way we do get enough on the top of his head here. I wouldn't use something like a lantern because I think that would spread the light out too much and we wouldn't necessarily get the shadow nearly as well as we do here. And then the actual blocking here makes a difference because we want to make sure that the actor's head is turned so that the far right side, which is away from the camera, is being, blocked from the light. And the left side here, we want to make sure is facing the light and open towards it. And that's why our camera placement is right here at an angle so that we match the flatness of his face, compressing him, while we get the angularness of the reflection and we can see all of the detail of the face more clearly as if it's almost facing the camera directly. And really, I think this is how I would light this. It doesn't have to be extremely complex. You could have differences of switching out the octabox or the softbox, right? That kind of thing. I would say that with just one light, you probably won't have enough light in this room, so you might need a space light or a lantern to actually just light the whole space. I'd kind of put that on our key side and have another lamp with the lantern or a space light. Both of these are reasonably cheap options. I think the lantern is a little more user-friendly for most folks. And this would just help bring up the exposure over the entire space. To make sure that we're getting a dense shadow, you could do something like a wag flag over behind him, somewhere like this. You just would need to be aware of not catching that in any sort of reflection. But you could do a wag flag to help pull those shadows, especially at the back of the head and that cheek down. If you don't have a wag flag, if you don't have a big sheet of duvetine, this is definitely more on the optional side, but I think that you would need the lantern to help just get that general exposure that you're looking for. And like I said, the color grade here is going to make a difference. We want those blue tones. We're going to protect those whites though. They're kind of creamy-ish whites. This one is ever so slightly blue and this one's ever so slightly tan, but his face in the quote-unquote real world is blue and the face in the reflection is more tan. And that's something that I would love to replicate. So how do we do something like that? Well, I think that if you just want to get the lighting like this, or you're lighting for a mirrored shot, this would work. But let's say you want to also try to do this color stuff in camera. I would think that it would be kind of difficult, but not impossible, where we take a orange gel and we put it on the side of the softbox to try to just tint the light on the mirror side just a little warmer. You would still get some of that on the front of the face here, but it would also at the same time mostly affect the side of the face that we are seeing in the mirror. That may or may not be something that works for you. The way that I was kind of initially thinking about this, that I think would be a really fun little trick, a very, to my mind, filmmaking type trick, would be to put the gel material, like a straw or something even lighter than a straw, over the mirror. So that the mirror itself, you could just cut it to size and install that into the mirror's frame so that the entire reflection from the mirror is gelled into this tannish, straw yellow, warmer color. And I think that that's, to me, something that's just a very classic filmmaking trick. We're doing this in camera right in front of the audience. The audience has it all laid out right in front of them. And this effect makes it so that the reflection, no matter what angle you're at, no matter if you have the softbox, blah, blah, will always be slightly warmer than the cool tones of the world around our subject. And then you could, push the color of the light from the softbox with some blue gel. You could do that. You could then just wait for color correction in post, but having this be this more tan in camera will also make the rest of the scene look more blue no matter what. You can also have this down to some costuming choices, a blue sweater, set design choices with the blue wall back here. There's a couple different things going on to help us manipulate the color, but I think it'd be really fun to put the straw gel directly into the mirror and pull off that color correction all practically right in front of the audience. And so this is one way to work with a mirror shot like this and plan how to get your angle right. Really, like I said, the blocking will make a difference here to make sure that we get the frame exactly how we want it to be, with how the eye contact works with the camera, and the flatness of the face in real life to the wall and to the mirror, from the camera's perspective. But this is how I would light something that needed to use a mirror in it for a close-up like this. And kind of as a bonus, how I would do the in-camera practical trick of grading that light so that it's warmer versus the blue tones of the real world. You can see that visual separation of the reflection of self versus the self in the real world. And I think that that's something that's really interesting to explore in the idea of a self-portrait. So I think this is a really, really cool example and a really cool reference image to work with. If you have any questions or comments about my lighting diagrams, as usual, please leave them in the comments down below. I really love getting comments. I really love hearing what people think about these things. I love hearing people be nerds about art just like I'm being. As I said at the beginning, if you want to pick up my free Filmmaker Tools template, you don't even have to sign up for my Patreon, but the Patreon link is down in the video's description, and you just go there and download it and you import it into Draw.io. If you want to figure out how to do all those kinds of steps, I have a guide video that I'll link down in the video's description that helps people get started with using my Filmmaker Tools template for Draw.io. If you want to join my Patreon, I'd really love to have you. I am trying for 200 members. If you want to pick up the kinds of equipment that we've been talking about here to make a shot like this, I do have affiliate links down in the video's description, and those help support the channel at no extra cost to you. If you did like the video, please give it a like. It really helps me reach new viewers who also like these kinds of videos about lighting, cinematography, and filmmaking in general. If you want to see more of those, you can subscribe. This week, take care of yourselves, take care of people around you, wear a mask in public to help reduce illness transmission. If you see somebody who needs help just in public, try to give them a hand. If you have a family member who needs some support, please be a listening ear. There's a lot of things going on in the world, and if we can all just be kind to each other, the world would be a better place. As always, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead of you. Peace.